Can you wash a filthy, salt-covered car in the winter without a hose? Let's find out. What's up guys? Welcome back to the Wheels Wreck Your channel. Today we'll be doing something a little bit more controversial, as you might see in the title, but I don't really care because this is important. In the winter, a lot of people don't have access to a hose. Whether you live in a house or an apartment, even if you have your own driveway and you have your own hose, in the winter you have to shut off the hose because freezing temperatures might burst your pipes. So if you're in a situation like that and you don't have a fancy electric washer like this, well, I'm gonna show you guys how I wash this whole car safely without using a drop of water from this. So as you can see, the car is completely filthy. Not only is it covered in rolled film, it's also covered in salt. So you definitely want to get that off, but we don't have a hose. So to rinse off all the dirt and grime before we go into contact washing, all we're gonna use is Rinseless Wash right here. So let's get to it and I'll show you guys how you can do it very easily. So here I got Rinseless Wash diluted 256:1. In a sprayer like this. So I'm gonna start pre-treating the car. And be generous.
Generous with the olive oil, sweat it down. If you've got a Swede, if you've got a turnip.
You want the Rinseless Wash to encapsulate all the dirt and grime. So after that, you can leave it for a couple minutes. Let the Rinseless Wash really dig into the dirt and grime and lift it up. And then we're gonna come back after that. So as I'm pre-treating the car, I'm gonna mainly focus on the lower panels because that's where the dirt and grime is gonna be mainly at. So on higher panels like this, like the hood and the roof, I'll just do a really quick coat over it and it should be good. And down here on the grill, you can do a couple more passes with the Rinseless Wash. So for example, the fender here is just right above the wheel. So I'm gonna give it 2 passes, just really get all that dirt and grime. And the door as well. The door, especially at the lower rocker panel here, I'll give it 2 to 3, even 4 passes. But on the glass here, this is where dirt and grime doesn't really get to as much. I'll just do a quick coat, just like the hood. And coming back down to this door panel, the lower I go, the more I'll focus on and spray a little bit more. Because as you're pre-treating a car like this, you're kind of doing a light rinsing. And since this is Rinseless Wash, it will lift up that dirt a lot better than water. So for the wheel, you're gonna get a lot of dirt and grime. So we're gonna be very generous with spraying it. Make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies. And you get into the wheelbarrow as well. Just get in there and spray this really well. So now that it has dwelled for a minute or two, I'm gonna do a second rinse. And this time, I'm gonna do it from top to bottom. Try to let that water drag down all the dirt and grime. So whatever the Rinseless Wash has suspended will be rinsed down. And of course, I'm not gonna do this detail of a rinse for the whole car. I'm gonna focus on the problem area, which is the lower panels like these. So right now at this point, it should be safe enough for me to get into contact washing. So right here, I got 2 gallons of Rinseless Wash and a sponge. And down here, I got a grit guard. Well, the dirt lock, the better version. I'll have this linked in the description. So that will help with the safety of the wash because it will trap the dirt down. Now, at this point, it should be pretty grit-free. So I'm gonna take my sponge at the verge of dripping. I'm gonna start from the higher panels like this. Ideally, you wanna start with the roof, but since I'm just doing a demo on the door right now, you're gonna start from the higher part of the door and then come down. And when you get to the halfway point, I will flip and then continue. Just like that. And once you run through the dirty part, do not put it back on your panel. Now, you want to go back to your bucket and rinse this out. Just dunk it back in, squeeze. The advantage with the sponge is that it releases dirt very easily. So whenever you dunk it back in a bucket, it will release the dirt that you just picked up from the panel. As you can see, this is already a lot cleaner. But for something like this, I would recommend doing 2 passes because when it's really dirty, you want to make sure your sponge has picked up all that dirt. So the second pass here feels a ton slicker. And the lower panel too. And you can see the sponge is barely picking up any dirt from the second pass because the first pass has cleaned it up so well. So just like that, this panel is clean. You can get to drying now. So you can take your drying towel and just dry off this panel if you want to do this panel by panel. So just like that, that is spotless. And it's completely clean. There's no chocolate film on it. There's no scratches on it. I can't see anything. So now we're gonna do a side by side and do some water behavior tests to show you guys the difference between a clean panel and an uncleaned panel. So on the left, this is a washed panel, and on the right, unwashed. Let's see. You can see on the lower panel, water is sticking to the panel. And that's because of the chocolate film. But how it's really supposed to be is this. You can see how water is beating off, so a big difference between the two. So something very important to this method is you definitely want to start from a higher place from the car, like the roof, to the bottom. So after the roof, you do the windshield, and then you start moving on to the vertical panels. So that way you can clean off the parts that don't have as much grit first. So you don't introduce as much grit to the parts that are not as dirty. So that way you can just, so there are just little steps like this that can maximize the safety of your wash. Of course, remove ice. So again, after the first rinse, I'm gonna come in with a second rinse and just let the water flow down. That way, it will make sure to get off the bigger grit that's gonna scratch your car. And this just adds to another layer of safety so you can have as much of a scratch-free experience as possible. So now after the 2 rinses, just take your sponge, go lightly, no pressure. The sponge will take care of the dirt as well as the rinseless since it's been sitting on here for a few minutes. And then one thing you really want to be diligent about with this method is that you have to dunk your sponge back in a bucket often so your wash media stays clean. And take a look at all the dirt that the rinseless is gathering up. All those spots is the dirt that rinseless has clumped up. So you want to, if you see something like this, you definitely want to go over with a second pass to pick that up with your sponge. So now I dunk my sponge back in and I go in with a second pass, just like that. And it feels a lot smoother. And looking at the black panel here, I'm not inducing any scratch by doing this. So this is for sure a safe method if you do it correctly. And of course, depending on your environment, this might not work for you, but at least in the very harsh winter here upstate New York, this works fantastic. And I do have to mention that this vehicle is this easy to clean because it's ceramic coated. So if your car is not ceramic coated or doesn't have any protection on it, even sealants, then it might be a little harder for you to do this. Actually, you can for sure see the difference. So after washing, you definitely want to add on some kind of protection, either a ceramic spray or do a ceramic coating, because that will drastically make this process a lot easier. So in the back, this area is super dirty because the back is always dirtiest. So when you rinse, make sure you get into that crevice and flush out all that dirt from in between the panels. So after we clean the car body, you might ask, what do we do with the wheels? These are filthy wheels. Same thing. Since your wheels is not anything different than their car body, it's also clear coated, painted. It's just exposed to a lot more dirt. That's fine. This method can also take care of it. And since we already did the first rinse and we covered the wheels, right now I'm just doing a flush to get rid of all the chunks and stuff. And that should be safe enough for us going with our cleaning media, which is this wheel mitt. And again, since we're doing this method, there might be a little bit more dirt on the surface than usual. So we're gonna be very diligent with cleaning our media. So about every 3 to 4 spokes, I will rinse out my media. So you just clean it like this, as usual. So about 3 spokes. I'm gonna dunk it back in the bucket, rinse out the mitt, and then continue. I'll come back up here from top to down. And for the lug nuts, you can grab your brush like this one. Make sure it's soaked in rinseless and just go in there, wipe off all that dirt. So just like that, now it's ready for dry off. And for the tire, I recommend using a rinseless dampen towel. So just grab your microfiber, use a cheap one for sure. And this is just a Costco one. So you want to wring that out and just rinse this dampened. Now you can use this cloth and just wipe your tire. And this will be especially easy if your tire is already coated in some kind of tire dressing or tire sealant, because that will help the tires just stay cleaner and also make it easier to clean. So just like that, then you can start drying off the whole wheel. For this wheel, I'll do an example for if you want to get in the wheel barrel and get a deep clean. So right now, I'm gonna go in with my sprayer, get into the wheel barrel. Just coat the wheel barrel with rinseless. I want to do the wheel face first, just because I kind of feel like if I clean the face first, I'm not gonna be rubbing as much dirt around as possible. This is not a recommendation, it's just kind of my preference. If you guys think that the other way is better, please let me know and why, because I love to learn from you guys too. So let me get this wheel face clean first. So now I'm gonna take my microfiber barrel blade and just gently go into my wheel barrels. The trick is every couple of wipes, you wanna go back in and rinse out your wash media. You can see the dirt that's pulling. I'm gonna flip. Use a clean side as much as I can. And now I'm thinking, maybe it's better to do the wheel face after, because it kind of pulls out some of the dirt from the wheel barrel when I use a barrel brush. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys' preference is, because I'd love to know. And the tires. So now the whole car is cleaned off. You can just dry it right off since there's already rinseless on the surface. So your towel should just glide on the surface. And if you find your panels drying up, when you get to the drying steps, you can just take your sprayer and respray the panel. That way there's some kind of lubrication on the surface, so your drying is much safer. Because a lot of times, drying is actually the #1 cause of swirls and scratches. So you want to make sure your surfaces are properly lubricated when you're drying. And in this case, you can either use rinseless or just any ceramic spray. Whether you have a coating on it or not, it will help regardless. So there you guys go. That's how you can wash your car without a hose in the middle of winter. If temperature permits, this is totally a doable way to clean your car, and the results is amazing. I mean, I can't be any happier than the kind of shine I'm getting right now. So it is totally safe, and I've been looking on the black trim. I can't find any scratches. So just make sure you are re-dunking your sponge back and forth whenever you go through a dirty area, so you mitigate the chance of you introducing grit onto your panel. And keep in mind, this is a ceramic coated vehicle. Ceramic coating will not prevent scratches, but will decrease the chance of scratching because this lower surface tension, when you rub your wash mitt against the panel, the grit is less likely to dig into your paint and cause scratching. So this method will work a lot better on ceramic coated vehicles, but if you don't, it will still work. It just might not be as easy as you might see on the screen when I'm doing it on this vehicle. So just keep that in mind. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions about the video, about the whole hoseless washing process, please let me know in the description. I will answer all the questions. In the meantime, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.